Sustainability. It's a word that gets thrown around quite a lot today. Everywhere you turn, there's a new sustainable vehicle, or sustainable paper towels, or sustainable grass-fed beef. It's hard to know exactly what this term means and how you can do your part to live a sustainable life. Livestock agriculture in particular has received lots of recent attention for being unsustainable, prompting many people to switch to vegan and vegetarian diets. But what role does seafood play in this lifestyle? Is fishing as bad as livestock agriculture? These questions sparked the inspiration for this video, which seeks to answer some more dynamic questions in a way that is accessible to all learning styles, so that the message of sustainability with respect to fishing and climate change can be shared with as many people as possible. By definition, fishing alters marine ecosystems by selectively removing fish and invertebrates. As the human population continues to grow, so does our influence on the planet. No ecosystems on Earth, including those in the ocean, are free of pervasive human interference. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, approximately 75% of the world's fisheries are fully or overexploited, and about 33% of U.S. fish stocks are overexploited. Beyond depletion of high trophic level populations, fishing the oceans has fundamentally altered the structure of marine ecosystems, leaving them susceptible to future devastations. There are 4 methods of commercial fishing that are globally utilized, and therefore significant. Longlining is one of the most widespread fishing methods in the world. Long lines are exactly what they sound like, lines up to 75 miles long of hundreds of thousands of baited hooks. These lines drag behind sea vessels at varying depths and catch many large species of fish, like swordfish and yellowfin tuna. However, long lines are also responsible for catching or injuring billions of fish, sharks, sea turtles, dolphins, birds, and other marine animals annually. Gill nets are walls of netting that are weighted at the bottom and extend up to fishing boats on the surface of the water. Ranging from 200 feet to over a mile long, these nets are too thin to be seen by fish, so they swim into the walls and get stuck in the nets. Gill nets entangle an estimated 100 species of marine mammals in California each year, including whales, dolphins, and sea lions, as well as multiple species of sea turtles and sharks. Most of these animals do not survive once they become entangled. Purse seines are nets shaped like drawstring bags and are typically used to catch tuna. Fishermen track pods of dolphins who commonly swim with large tuna and drop a net into the water to surround the school. The edges of the net are slowly cinched together, trapping hundreds of tuna in the net, which is then drawn up and closed like a laundry bag. Oftentimes, dolphins are also caught in these nets. Bottom trawlers are enormous bag-shaped nets that are dragged along the ocean floor. The nets are weighed down by metal plates, but more modern nets are held just off the seafloor by wheels to prevent rocks and coral from tearing the nets as they're towed along. Universally considered as one of the most environmentally damaging fishing techniques, bottom trawlers catch just about everything in their path, including fish, rocks, coral, and other marine organisms. They also stir up sediment and other debris, negatively impacting the turbidity of the water. One of the critical issues with all of these fishing techniques is their inability to target only their commercially desired species. Unwanted bycatch is one of the main drivers of marine ecosystem devastation. Many species, including marine mammals, seabirds, sea turtles, sharks, oysters, kelps, and seagrasses, have been negatively affected by fisheries, either directly through bycatch or habitat damage, or indirectly through altered food web interactions. There have been 12 documented global extinctions of marine species. Beyond these 12 species, many more species have been reduced to such low population levels that they are considered ecologically or commercially extinct. Many of these species are bycatch of the target fishery. These bycatch species tend to be the ones most in danger of deadly declines, because fishing pressure is not dependent on their abundance. The highly exploitive fishing techniques utilized today are damaging ocean ecosystems, often irreversibly, and are leaving them susceptible to future devastations. While humans are changing ocean communities through fishing, impacts of climate change are taking place in marine and coastal environments, resulting in the loss of wetlands and coral reefs, eutrophication, and pollution, among other consequences. Ultimately, these effects, individually or collectively, may result in shifts in marine ecosystems. One key indicator of the relationship between climate change and fishing is biodiversity. Biodiversity is correlated to community productivity and stability in such a way that reductions in biodiversity from highly exploitive fishing could make that ecosystem more vulnerable to changes that previously could be absorbed. For this reason, scientists claim that fishing effects are the #1 threat to marine biodiversity. In most coastal ecosystems, fishing impacts occurred first and then were followed in time by pollution, habitat destruction, invasive species, and finally climate change, indicating that climate change factors like rising ocean temperatures and declining pH have a more dramatic effect on fragile ecosystems than resilient, functioning ones. It is clear that climate change interacts with and can exacerbate the impacts on ocean ecosystems of non-climatic stressors such as pollution, overharvesting, disease, and invasive species. For this reason, climate change is often considered a threat multiplier, meaning that it impacts marine organisms by interacting with non-climatic stressors such as nutrient pollution and fishing pressure. Although in many cases these multiple stressors are simply additive in their impacts, interactions that are synergistic or more than the sum of the individual effects are also common. From a policy and management perspective, reducing non-climatic stressors at local to regional scales can provide an opportunity to enhance the resilience of marine ecosystems to climate change. Without these reductions, climate change will continue to exacerbate these damaged ecosystems and, according to the World Wildlife Fund, could very well be the knockout punch for many species which are already under stress from overfishing and habitat loss. Fishing and climate change both have social, cultural, political, and economic factors embedded within them, especially in the policies and management of these very scientific issues. Fishing is obviously driven by economics as it sustains many local and regional economies around the world. As temperatures change, marine communities are shuffled around. Some species move in search of colder waters, while some are content to stay put, and each species moves at their own pace. This constant change creates a number of challenges for fishermen who are forced to change their fishing strategies or suffer economically. Because it is so hard to place a dollar value on things that aren't bought and sold, it is a challenge to understand the relationship between climate change and economics. Unsurprisingly, non-consumptive uses and ecosystem services are poorly accounted for and represented in fishery research, policy, and management, despite being just as critical reasons for sustaining oceanic systems. Some non-consumptive values include tourism, research, and education. These have a much more measurable worth than other non-consumptive services like nutrient cycling and weather regulation. Because these are harder to quantify, they are often overlooked. More integrated analysis of climate and non-climatic stressors and the cumulative impacts of their interactions will be critical for understanding physiological and ecological responses to climate change. Improved research will certainly lead to more informed policies and hopefully improved management of fisheries and reduced climate change devastation. Fishing and climate change and their impacts on marine ecosystems are deeply entwined. Modern-day fishing techniques exploit target fish stocks and unintentionally devastate thousands of other species of marine organisms through bycatch, ecosystem destruction, and increased fragility, which is then exacerbated by climate change. Ocean warming, ocean acidification, and rising sea levels are particularly influential in these already damaged ecosystems. They cause or aggravate species movement, changes in ecosystem structure and function, susceptibility to marine diseases, toxicants, and invasive species, and they cause dramatic reductions in biodiversity. Despite clear research connecting fishing and climate change as the unsustainable twosome, various social, cultural, political, and economic influences reduce the power of this science. For this reason, it is critically important that more research is developed to better understand the synergistic effects of fishing and climate change and create a more sustainable fishing future. A large aspect of this sustainable future depends on policies that do more to protect marine ecosystems from harm. However, consumers play a role as well. Navigating the topic of sustainability is a challenge, but the information you need to be an informed consumer is out there. Hopefully, this video is something that will assist you in making healthy choices for yourself, the planet, and the future of both, because that is sustainability.